My name is Marcia Robinson, and we are recording an oral history with Candice Keller as part of the Sweet MUMories Oral History Project. This marks the 50th anniversary of the Miami University Middletown, Ohio campus. This interview is taking place on October 28th, 2016 at the Gardner Harvey Library. Mrs. Keller, do I have your consent to proceed with this interview?
Yes.
Thank you. I understand that when you started at MUM, you're coming from a farming community, a community of coal mining people, and you had this opportunity to go to college, but you thought you weren't going to fit in because you were non-traditional. Would you mind talking about that?
Yeah, I was in my early 20s, and the campus was kind of new, but it was in my hometown. And so I had a toddler at home, and we were, had our own business. And so I began at Miami as a non-traditional student. I was really nervous and very afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it. But I did it, and the university was very receptive to my background, and I learned that there were a lot of people here like me.
One of the programs that helps non-traditional students is the Mom and Tots program.
Mm-hmm.
Did that help you at all?
It was an enormous help. I had a 2-year-old, and in the beginning, they didn't have the Tots program, and so I was taking evening classes, but then they started up the program for daycare, sort of. And then I realized that I could carry a full load and use the Tots program for my little one, and so then I volunteered, and it was kind of a great little community. We brought in snacks, and I got to know all the other young moms, and it was very helpful.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, are there any experiences here that may have changed your career path, maybe through the Artist in Lecture series?
Yes, I was so open when I came here. It was such a whole new world for me because I had been raised in a very traditional family. I raised a church girl, and I went to Middletown City schools. When I came here, the professors were very open to me, very available to me, and there was something at that time called the Artist in Lecture series, and so these great speakers were brought in. I didn't realize how amazing they were, and I learned later how really incredible it was. We had Dr. Linus Pauling, and I remember sitting. I literally sat on the floor, kind of at his feet, and I just looked up at him. And he was very elderly at the time, but we just hung on every word. And I looked around the room, and I thought, this is very important that I be here. Later on, they brought in James Roosevelt, who was the president's son, President Roosevelt's son, who had served in World War II, and he also was very elderly. And again, I realized, even as a young girl in my 20s, that it was very important that I hear what these people had to say. And I never forgot what an impact that had on me.
For those who may not have met you, did you follow up on these political conversations into a career? What was your original major, and what path did you take to get to your present career?
Well, my original thought when I came here was that I would be a nurse, and I had wanted to be a nurse my entire life. When I began here, I kind of realized it wasn't for me, even though I have such respect for nurses. I just thought, this isn't exactly what I should do. And I had a counselor, she said to me, you need to figure out what it is that you love and do that, and then it will never seem like you're working. So I was good at English. I'd won every spelling bee all through elementary school, and I was a good writer. And there was a professor here named Jean Coakley. She was here for years. She was married to a Scottish man, I believe, but she taught English literature. She was so incredible that I literally kept taking her just to listen to her. I took every class she offered. She had a huge impact on me, and she taught about English literature. And so I began to take every English literature and American literature class available that was here close. And then from there, of course, I began to take other English classes, and I realized, well, this is who I am, so I'm doing English now. When I got into the nonprofit field, it was interesting. There are a lot of nonprofit directors in Middletown and really in the surrounding community. And it's really funny, we all have English degrees. So, fundraising is a large part of what I do, and letter writing is a large part of what I do, and making speeches. Now, I was so backward when I came here, and I was very, very much an introvert. I was very afraid. I just didn't think I measured up. But coming here gave me the confidence, first of all, to be more expressive in my writing. And now, of course, that translates into speech making for me. But I had to start speaking in front of the class, and that was really scary. It was really intimidating. Now that's what I do for a living. Now I literally write speeches and make speeches, and I've never really loved it, but people tell me I'm good at it, and so I keep doing it, and it's a great way to raise money, and it's a great way to make relationships. So, when you run a nonprofit, which is what I do now, and of course I never dreamed I would ever do that, it's all about that networking and those relationships, and you have to do that by reaching out through writing and through speech making.
One of the goals of the Miami Plan is to expand horizons of students both locally and to think globally. Did any of that effort manifest during your time here at Miami?
I can't describe the impact that Miami had on me at that time in my life. I was a very small thinking person, I think, when I came as a young person. Very comfortable in my little world. And coming here opened up all kinds of things to me. And specifically, there were certain professors that I had that, of course, they all were experts in their field. But it was, oddly enough, it was the professors who I differed the most with who had the most profound impact on me. For instance, because I grew up, sort of just like a regular Ozzie and Harriet kid, I never really thought about the poor that much, or people who were denied education or denied anything. And I began to take professors that introduced these ideas to me. And when they did, I never realized, of course, that I would one day run an agency that meets the needs of 1,800 poor women a year who have children with no clothing or no food or no diapers. So I think, the Miami Plan, as far as I'm concerned, it gives you a very well-rounded view of the world and what is going on around you in a way that is not intimidating, in a way where you feel like you can make a difference and you can do something in your sphere of influence.
Is there something about Miami's culture that you hope will survive the next 50 years?
I think there's a strong tie between the community and Miami. I'm 57, and so when I was a little girl, this was Bunny Hollow. This was where we went sledding. And then Barry Levy and other community-minded people introduced the idea of having a university campus here. So I literally watched this place come up, grow up out of the ground. All of a sudden it was a university. And I think that the Middletown community is connected to that. This is ours. We did this. And we keep it beautiful, we keep it current. When I came in here today, I haven't been here in some time, but everything is just rolling right along with the culture, even the facilities themselves. And, Miami, I'm always proud to tell people I have a degree from Miami. I'm always proud to tell them that because I feel like even not only the Oxford campus, but the Middletown campus, Hamilton, Westchester, they're on a level like no other. And I think the great thing about that is, of course, that the community stays connected, very supportive. Everyone I know is supportive of all that goes on here. And I love that. I love that about this. It's a small town. I'm proud of that. I like that. But we have a great campus here.
Are there any other memories that you would like to share for the records to make sure that they're not forgotten, things that make Mom special?
I had to take an English class early on. There are a couple. One was my very first, this is kind of funny, my very first English class, 111. My professor had been in Auschwitz. She had numbers tattooed on her arm. And the first book she had us read was Night by Elie Wiesel. And so we had to write a paper on it, and I did the best I could. And her comments on my paper were, this is not a great paper. You need to go back and do this again. And I was so disappointed because I thought I really knew about reading and writing, and I didn't. And I'll never forget I remember exactly what she looked like and exactly how she taught. I don't know where she's at today. She had a big impact on me because she was very real with me about my illusions about how great of a writer I was. The other memory that I have that has stayed with me was in one of my English classes. I had to write a paper of someone who had lived through the Great Depression. And I found a gentleman who was nearing 100 years old. And it was a great interview that I did. I mean, I don't know if it was great grade-wise, I can't remember, but what I learned from him stayed with me to the point where I kept that paper. And it probably isn't that great, but I kept it because he taught me so many things about what it was like to grow up during a time of hardship. So those projects, there are little, snippets of things that I recall, but those projects where I was pushed to do the thing I didn't think I could do, that has probably been what's carried me to run an organization now for 11 years that has met the needs of thousands of women. Not only that, remarkably enough, I'm, hopefully heading to the State House. I can't believe that a little girl from Middletown that was terrified of going to college will be making a speech in front of the House of Representatives in 3 weeks. But I will, and yes, I'm nervous about that, but Miami has equipped me, and the contribution of a lot of people, but I'm not afraid because I know that Miami gave me the relevance to be this person and to speak for the 117,000 people that live in this district, Middletown being one of them. So, when I came here in the 1980s as a young mom with a toddler, I never dreamed I would be sworn in as a state representative. But, when you come in here with dreams, if I could say anything to a young person that is nervous or thinks they're inadequate or thinks they can't do it, my advice would be to push yourself. And I trust God. I trust God for this plan for my life, to push myself and give it everything you have. And you really don't know where it will take you. So you can't fail. You can't fail because you've done your very best, and who knows where that will take you. So if there is ever a product of Miami that was the most unlikely, the most unexpected, that would be me, for sure.
Thank you for that story. I hope many people hear it. And I'd like to know if I have your permission to terminate the recording or just end it. Do I have your permission?
Sure.
Thank you.